At She Can, we tell women's stories. We show how women got to where they are today. It's a place where women lead by example. And I'm really excited to talk to Anna Zannides today. Anna, welcome to She Can.
Thank
You're
you.
the founder of the mindfulness approach. You're a mindfulness teacher and you're the author of the book, How Did I Get Here? Tell us a bit more about yourself and the journey that you have been on to get to where you are today.
Okay, so I kind of write about my journey in my book, and that's why it's called How Did I Get Here? Because it goes back to um, a decade ago when everything that I had in my life at that time had basically fallen apart. So I had just been made redundant. So I was an education advisor. I was just going through a divorce after 30 years of marriage and had to sell my home because I couldn't keep it. My kids had grown up, so they were leaving home. So everything that I had become attached to as being myself just went woof. And so the title of the book is me going, at one point during all of this chaos, going, oh my gosh, how did I get here? And so that's kind of my journey, really, if I could put it, is how how I pieced my life back together after everything I had come to know as being me had fallen apart.
Anna, so if I understand that correctly, you really are using your journey and all the challenges that you had to overcome, and you're now helping other people who might be in those situations, or who might just be in a transitionary period or overcoming challenges. So tell us a bit more about this journey where you came across Buddhism and where you became a mindfulness teacher, how it helped your life and how you're now helping others.
Yeah. So right at the beginning, when everything, kind of fell and I had nothing left to hold on to,
Mm.
I booked myself for a crazy trip to Nepal. Just things started happening, and somehow I was driven there and pulled there. But as my Buddhist teachers will say to me now, is that, it's not new. You've been there before. That's why you were pulled there. So whatever it is, however you like to interpret, I ended up in Nepal. At that time, I was 52. So it was also quite a big change in me as well as a woman as we
Mm.
age. And I had put myself into a kind of Buddhist retreat um, in a Buddhist monastery in the hilltops outside Kathmandu. And I know somebody said to me recently, "Oh, you had an eat, pray, love experience," and I was like, "Well, actually, I had more the pray, but we don't pray in Buddhism, rather than the eat and the love." So that was the beginning of my real kind of in-depth thrown into Buddhism and mindfulness at the same time, because I don't tend to separate the two that much.
Yeah. Anna, so tell us about how you practice this now. How do you practice your own mindfulness? How do you teach other people?
Yeah, so I think mindfulness has been through this really kind of a kind of real kind of commercialization. So obviously when we're practicing it from the, say, the Buddhist perspective, there's no real commercialization. It's very difficult to kind of put that into, the materialistic world. So I practice it more in the daily living, where can we be mindful in our daily lives? Because realistically, yes, you can go up to the hilltops of Kathmandu and sit in a temple with a whole other bunch of Buddhists and monastics. But if you're going to come back down into this world, you need to be able to know how to put that into practice. So, how you ground yourself, how you are aware of your inner environment when the outside is all so crazy and out of control. So, when I work with people, it's more about trying to get them to understand themselves, to pay close attention to what's going on in their environment, their inner environment, and all the different things that might trigger them. Like today, I was writing about trauma and unresolved trauma, which is sitting in your body, ready to be triggered. That's where mindfulness comes in, where it takes where it acts as a way to stop being so triggered.
Yeah. Yeah. Anna, and where do you feel you're now in your journey? You've gone through all these challenges, you've overcome them by learning mindfulness and by practicing it and by teaching others. And so where do you feel now? Do you feel peaceful? Do you feel it's a journey? It's a never-ending journey? How do you work? Do you work one-on-one? Do you work in groups?
Yeah. So I think it's an ongoing journey. You know, people say to me, why do you say you're a mindfulness teacher or practitioner? Why do you always say you're a practicing Buddhist? It's because we're always practicing. The point is we never get there. And thinking you've got there is actually like you've gone full circle. Because the idea that you've got somewhere is actually against the whole point of what we're trying to do in our lives.
Yeah.
So, have I got there? No. Am I on that journey still? Absolutely. Am I more peaceful? Absolutely. But that's because I think I have also created a life. I live a lot in solitude. I live a lot in silence. I try not to engage as much as I did in the external world. That's not what I recommend for other people to do. It's just what I do. That's what I'm on, the journey I'm on. My second book now that I'm writing is actually on that part of the journey where you are applying it to your daily life.
Mm.
Because I find a lot of people in my community struggle to get back into the daily routines because when you've experienced that level of peace, it becomes really difficult to want anything but that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the challenge that I think I'm finding at the moment. And many people that have been on my journey, or that, you know, a lot of them will go off and retreat. I know a lot of people on my journey that will go become monastics or go and retreat for a long time. Um, but I have children and I have grandchildren, and I don't really want to give them up. Um, so I'm finding my part of the journey is trying to show people how can we have both worlds? How
Yeah.
can we do that?
So how can we have both worlds, Anna?
Well, I think it's the realization that we have to make some changes in our lives and, you know, perspective. For example, let's say the perspective could be getting off that hamster wheel of wanting more, 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 you know, learning that that isn't actually what's going to give us happiness, uh, finding a way to say enough, this is enough, um, valuing the really important things in life, which are your family, which is the creativity that you have in your life, the opportunity to impact others, to make good in this world. Those things I find change how we view the world. And when we change how we view the world, then we're able to be in it in a better way.
Yeah, leading by example, leading by
Mm.
example. There are so many things, Anna, that I appreciate that you said that you're on a journey and the journey is sort of never ending, right? Which is beautiful because it's not that the point is to arrive at this
Mm.
blissful state. It is to live the journey and to grow while you're on the journey. And so I'm wondering, what qualities do you feel you have that really serve you in being a mindfulness teacher and in supporting other people on their journey?
Well, I think it's very important to question yourself when you start putting ideas about the future. So, the worry, oh, this might happen, or the plans that I want, the way I want it for the future. We can live that so much. And what I do is when I find myself coming up with those stories, I know that I'm on the wrong thinking journey here. And I bring myself back to the one thing, which is that is all a made up story. In fact, everything, even the 2 seconds after that we thought we were likely to have, is just a thinking journey and so unpredictable. So I think the most important thing is to question that all the time. How do I know that that's going to happen? What makes me think that's going to happen? For example, you have people that I've worked with who have gone through a divorce, as an example, and their biggest kind of struggle is being alone. And they have that idea of, I might never meet anybody. And then you think, but how do you know the person that you may meet, you may not? I'm not saying you will or you won't, but you don't know who's round the corner. And so we work on that kind of idea, that the idea of the future is pointless. We just have to get our heads around that. We have no clue. And I think anybody, like, if you've lived a certain amount of years, you can look back and go, none of that was planned. Like, none of what I've lived through was the way I thought it was going to be when I was 15 and 16 and 17, or even in my 20s. None of that worked the way I had planned.
Yeah.
So what is the point?
Anna, I think this is a perfect bridge to the next question. As you said, when we are young, we have big plans, and a lot of them are also beautiful. But
Mm.
often things don't go exactly according to that plan. So, what are your tips for our listeners and how we can use mindfulness to overcome those transitions or these periods when things don't go according to plans? And then we see them as challenges or as pitfalls. How can mindfulness help us there?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we're looking at here is every single challenge that comes our way is a lesson. If we can turn our interpretation of a challenge as being so difficult, such an obstacle, such a, unfair, it's unfair. Why do I always get this? Why does this always happen? Instead of having that reaction, we go, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? What is this showing me? And I think if we're realistic in life, we know we never learn when things are going well. Because when things are going well, we just coast, we're happy. But when things are challenging, that's when we start to learn and question and change. So, like it or not, when things aren't going our way, they are actually the best things for us if we know how to deal with them. So, I think one is that the perspective that we must always ask ourselves. And I think the second thing is we have this idea that mindfulness is about being in this kind of blissful state. But actually, if you're practicing mindfulness authentically, what is going on is a deep self dialogue. So if you start practicing mindfulness, and a lot of people have done that in the past, where they've gone, oh, I'm practicing mindfulness, so I'm now flying on, some kind of cloud. Well, you're not practicing mindfulness, because mindfulness is about self-inquiry, which isn't always, it's not an easy thing, actually,
Yeah.
but it does help us better understand ourselves. And I think, if I was to give a third, tip, it would be to learn to ground yourself when you feel yourself being pulled along. So we give that analogy of, if you feel that there's a stream and it's a rough stream, which are the challenges, and you jump in, you're going to just get pulled along. And mindfulness is about learning to come out of that and sit on the side and allow it to pass. So not push it away, but just go, okay, it's going to pass. I'll watch it. I just won't jump in with it. So hopefully that makes a bit of sense.
Anna, I'm wondering, I mean, I love what you said to give us a different perspective, the self-inquiry, which can be really hard because we have to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. We have to be comfortable in sitting with what is, which often we don't like because we're also not trained anymore to sit with the uncomfortable. And also to ground yourself. And, I always think many people talk about this right now. And I sometimes think, I don't think many people know how to ground yourself. So do you want to give us a very quick explanation of what you feel that means and how do you do it?
Yeah, so grounding yourself, the thing with grounding yourself is you can't really ground yourself unless you can catch yourself in that moment of lack of awareness. So the first thing that you need in order to ground yourself is to notice that something is going on with you. So it starts with that, because if we don't grab ourselves at that moment, we're lost. We've gone into anger, we've gone into fear, we've gone into whatever it might be. So the first thing we do is to notice. And then at that moment that we notice, there are many things we can do. We can just plant our feet on the ground and take our focus down to our feet. That's the thing. The grounding is literally noticing your body being in contact with the ground in whatever form it is at that moment.
Yeah.
So, and then it could be that you put your hand on your heart. Hand on your heart is really good because that's, starting to self-soothe. Just bringing your focus there and realizing you're a human.
Yeah.
So those are just kind of very small, very quick. Some of the things I do with little kids, because kids might find that really difficult, is we just talk about, maybe just moving your hand up and just looking at your finger a little bit, just to break. All it is 2 seconds to break that reaction.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And it could be so many different things that you do to break that reaction.
Yeah, I sometimes say, notice your feet and how
Yes,
the feet are connected to the ground. And that is already a circuit breaker for coming out of a reactionary state.
absolutely.
Anna, what kind of plans or dreams or goals do you have for the next years? Where's your journey heading?
I want to finish my second book. I'm 1/5 through, roughly. So I want that finished and published. I am currently really developing some mindful approaches that I can use in the workplace. I already have many years of experience of working in cancer support, so that's a huge area that I really love doing, because that's somewhere where people really have the need to know how to deal with that fear.
Yeah.
of what they're facing. So I'm hoping to develop those further, work with more people to help them. That's my dream, is to really just be able to make an impact as best as I can on people that really, really need some way of better dealing with the challenges of their daily lives.
Anna, I have to mention this. I went to see Gabor Mate last night, and when
Oh,
you
that's funny.
speak,
You were there with my friend. She was there.
and I just keep on thinking how he talks about compassion and how compassion is a tool for transformation. And if I look at you and I listen to you, I feel compassion has given you this new purpose and has given you the direction for the sort of second part of your life
Yeah.
post all the things you've done before. And I love listening to that. I'm wondering, Anna, if you had a wand and you could change one thing in your life, what would that be?
Um, Nothing really. I don't know if I have anything. I think I would like to have more time and maybe the luxury to go away again and do another retreat. Um, I may do that in another year or so. I think I need it. I would love for people to engage more with me and let me into their lives to have that impact. And Gabor Mate, I can't even say his name. He's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. And on that thing of compassion, and this may be a little bit controversial, I suppose, but my view is, because when I learned mindfulness, I learned compassion-based mindfulness. I also teach compassion-based living as well. And in Buddhism and Tibetan Buddhism, especially that I practice, compassion is really what is at the forefront of what we practice.
Mm.
And I always say to people, if we all woke up tomorrow with compassion for each other rather than hate and anger, just imagine how the world would change.
Yeah, I think
That's
that's
that's my kind of, let's just have that love. And love is powerful, it's dangerous to society, compassion and love, because it means that we may not go to war with others and we may not fight. And just imagine how that would change the world.
I think that's a beautiful note to end with. Anna, thank you so much for
No
giving us
worries. Thank you so much for your time.
a different perspective, a grounded perspective in all your tips. And we're excited for your next book.
Thank you very much.